So we're late for obvious reasons. The WrestleMania kickoff event was on the air, and I got caught up in it. I mean, it is what it is. Um, so I guess we're going to talk about that first. Scott, I didn't expect the WrestleMania kickoff event to actually matter, but they did some interesting things there that I want to talk about. So we're going to talk about it. While I got you guys' attention, we're going to get my live reactions to what we just saw. So Cody Rhodes picks Roman Reigns, which is what everybody expected. Um, but first, we got Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. Seth is wearing pink bows on his shoes, which is why Roman roasted him last week for wearing his wife's clothes. And Seth comes out to talk about Cody Rhodes. He gets interrupted by Roman Reigns, who talks about his shoes. Um, Seth Rollins is like, you finally showed up to work, and he says you finally showed up again in your wife's shoes. So Rollins is trying to talk, and Roman just moves on. He just moves on to say that Cody Rhodes hesitated. He made his decision. Uh, he hesitated, and when you hesitate, your opportunity is lost. He wants The Rock. That's what Roman says. He says the tribal chief is making the decisions now. Seth Rollins is still talking during all of this mess, and then Roman just called him a bum and told him to get off the stage, which he should have. He should have gotten off the stage, but much to my chagrin, he was still there. Um, the Rock comes out, and The Rock starts talking about the main event of WrestleMania, talking about people's passion, mentioned the Cody Crybabies, played up the tweener role. He did a really good job on Pat McAfee's show of making fun of the Cody fans that were, acting up online. The ones who sent death threats to his daughter, they absolutely earned being mocked and made fun of. If you send a death threat to Ava Rain, you are a moron. But he's been having a hell of a day. So he comes out there and he starts talking about the family tree, about their grandfathers swore some kind of blood oath in Samoan, and now they're family. And they're the most dominant royal family in the wrestling business. Cody Rhodes comes out with no music, and I like that part. I like that little touch right there. How Cody just came out with no music. He called bullshit on this whole thing. Says that Roman isn't calling the shots. He is, and he made his decision. And his decision is that he wants to fight Roman Reigns. Um, Interesting. Now, they said on SmackDown that he would not be fighting Roman Reigns. Now, why would he say that? Instead of just saying, I took counsel from a lot of people, which is what he said. And one of the people I took counsel from was this man, and it was The Rock. And then you could have just left it at that. But he said he was not going to fight Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. So when he comes out during the press conference, he mentions wanting to fight Roman Reigns. He wants to take the WWE Championship. So Roman is incensed about this. Roman is incensed at this whole ordeal. Called Cody Rhodes stupid. So he needs to go to the loser bracket. The loser table will have him. He's an embarrassment. He's irrelevant, just like his daddy. So Cody Rhodes got upset and said that the Bloodline were goons. They were his meal ticket. And it says, who cares who sits at the head of the table? Because neither one of you has been cooking for 2 years. The Rock starts kind of getting in Cody's face a little bit. He's getting in his face a little bit. Then Cody starts saying how the High Chief would be embarrassed of Roman Reigns. And now The Rock's pissed. The Rock says his ancestors are my ancestors. His blood is my blood. When you talk about his grandfather, you're talking about mine. And then he smacked Cody Rhodes. And I was like, oh shit. All right. Oh shit. I had a feeling they would go the route of Roman and Rock together. That's an interesting twist to this whole thing. So not only will The Rock be in Roman Reigns' corner at WrestleMania, it that could be even better than them wrestling against each other. Is having The Rock in Roman's corner defending the family against Cody Rhodes. You could always do Rock and Roman later. You can even set up Rock and Roman at this event at WrestleMania 40. I do want to know how they're going to get out of this situation because everybody was ready for Roman and The Rock to wrestle each other, and now it seems like they're going to end up being on the same side. Now, a lot of people feel like The Rock had sort of eclipsed Roman in this scenario in terms of being a heel because he smacked Cody and all that. I think that the crowd turned on The Rock first, and The Rock's heel turn is sensible. Cody made a comment about the family. Cody made a comment, and Rock got offended. He just stood there and told you how their families are the same. If you and your cousin are in an argument and somebody walks up and says, fuck your mama, well, his mama is my auntie, his grandma is my, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of how, even though Cody didn't say anything that was, worthy of getting slapped, that was just Rock being a heel. But you understand it. You understand it. But that's my question now, and that's where they ended it, is with, and God bless Seth Rollins, he was still there. He was still there the entire time. I forgot he was even there. I forgot Rollins was even there. I forgot Rollins was even still on the stage. He starts yelling at Rock, "You can't do what you want. You can't do what you want." And then Rock says, "Yeah, I can. I don't care if you're on the board. You can't do that. You can't go around smacking guys." Like, "Yeah, I can. I do whatever I want." Mm. That was great. That was great. They teased Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch earlier. Spoilers for Elimination Chamber, by the way. By the by. Bianca Belair didn't do nothing but come out there and pimp her Hulu show. I don't even know why she was there. I didn't see Bailey all night. They talked about the the um, the WWE Speed concept, which I hate it. I heard about it. I hate it. 5-minute matches only for Twitter. Come on, it's going to be Cedric Alexander versus Dante Chen, 4.5 minutes or something. You're not going to get any story or anything on it. I don't care about that. Yeah, I saw CM Punk took some shots. Like, where were these guys in 2013? So I don't know what he's doing now because, again, right after the smack, I waited for a little while to see if something else was going to happen. It didn't look like nothing was going to happen, so I just started the live stream. But I liked what they did. What I saw, I loved it. I thought it was great. They were building up the Rock and Roman as being the biggest WrestleMania match of all time. The most dominant family going to go after each other. The Rock says that the story between him and Roman began the moment Roman said that he was the head of the table and that he was a tribal chief, even though The Rock hasn't been around and all that. I'm definitely, I definitely think it should be Rock and Roman. I'm not against Cody, but Roman ain't wrestling twice. So what are they going to do? They still haven't cleared it up because Cody says he wants to fight Roman Reigns, which is what he said on SmackDown. It's all about time and place, you know. But I'm guessing is that they're going to do something to keep The Rock in the middle. So it might be a thing where uh, he's a heel right now because he smacked Cody, but he might be a babyface in so much that he has some kind of internal issue with Roman. But I actually love the idea. When they first started standing side by side, I thought, man, that's fucking cool. Like, The Rock and Roman as partners is fucking cool. But the also thing that I thought, and I was like, man, just imagine if Dusty was there. You know, like, Cody needs some help. Like, I wish his brother could be there, bro. Like, I'm standing, just sitting here, like, Just how cool would it have been if Dustin Rhodes had Cody's back the entire time? You know, that would have really elevated this whole family thing to the next level. But unfortunately, he's in AEW. So, but I loved it. I thought it was great. You know, I thought this thing was pretty fun, and it can replace some episodes of Raw for me, if we're being honest. If you can replace Raw with these press conferences, and I'm okay with that. I mean, it's just nothing but promos anyway. Um, and hell, most WWE shows are mostly promos now. Uh, so I thought it was great. CM Punk has been doing commentary for years. He did commentary for UFC. He did commentary for what was that? Fight Fury or the Fury or some stupid MMA product. Of course, he did WWE backstage. He can talk. I mean, the guy can talk professionally. He knows what he's doing. You know. And I like that they keeping him in the mix because they're not letting him just go home and sit and not be involved with the electricity of it all. You know, like that's from a lot of people that missed WrestleMania. From what I heard, that's usually the issue is they're not around. You know, during the most interesting time of year. Yeah, you can't wrestle, but you still kind of want to be there. You know, that's why I'm kind of surprised Charlotte hasn't popped up. You know, I know she can't wrestle, but maybe she should, cut a promo or, just be in the room, you know, because they did really the way they integrated CM Punk and Big E into the product. I like it. I thought it was good. This press conference was great, and I'm pretty sure it was The Rock's idea to say if I can't fight Roman, then me and Roman have to be on the same side. You know, um, that here's the thing: would it be worth doing just to buy his contract out, just to have him on Cody's side in for WrestleMania? Um, I don't know. Like that would be. This was one of those times where I wish he was there. You know, WrestleMania would be one of those times where I wish he was there. Other than that, though, I can't really see why he would need to be there, like in September. Like, why would he need to be there in December or whatever? Unless they were going to do Cody versus Dustin, which you always could do in WWE, which I think is where a better story could be told. Even though they wouldn't be able to have the blood and everything, I think there's a much stronger story to tell with them in WWE, with Dustin being the black sheep, and then of course him having one final match, especially his final match, his retirement or whatever. That could be great. I think Charlotte would play a good role in the Bayley storyline too. I don't remember her injury. She got injured in a match with Io Shirai, didn't she? So maybe as being somebody who is sent out there to get in Bayley's face and tell her, remember the good old days, blah 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 blah. All the work you put in, all the work we put in. The four horsewomen carried the company and all that. I mean, what's the match? Like, what match? I think she was in a match with Io when she got injured, right? Or was it Oscar? I forget who she was wrestling, but if she got injured in a match with Io, then it would work perfectly for her to be in Bayley's corner or to cut a promo to boost up Bayley. Um, I'm sitting here, man. That was great. The Rock turning heel and smacking Cody was great, especially since on the Pat McAfee show he was dissing Cody's fans. But at the same time, talking about how much he loved Cody, he thought Cody was great. He was speaking out of both sides of his face. And now he basically did the same thing, where he was talking about, laying SmackDown on Roman, their families, how big this could be, and ended up siding with Roman in the end. I thought that was interesting. That was a good story, you know. Uh, well, the issue with buying out the rest of Dustin's contract would be Tony would have to agree to sell, and I don't think he would. Uh, I definitely think it was a pivot, and I definitely think they saw the reaction, and they decided to pivot. I know that there's who is it? Is it Boozer Wrestling guy who says it's going to be a 3 match series between Rock and Roman? Rock keeps talking about playing the long game and all that. Look, I can I can see a series of matches, but I don't think it'll be 3. I think it'll be 2 at the most, and they'll probably split them. Rock will probably win the first one, Roman wins the second one, or the other way around. Um, I guess if you want to build some heat for their feud, them being on the same side at first is probably the better way to tell the story than them automatically being against each other. Um, but that depends on what the story you're telling, you know. So I don't know. That would be an interesting piece of business. So if Roman Reigns get help from The Rock, what about Cody Rhodes get Stone Cold? It doesn't hit the same because Stone Cold is not literally related to Cody Rhodes. It'd be less like a special thing. Humble 85 says there'll be a tag team match with Cody and Seth versus Rock and Roman at Elimination Chamber. You know what? That could. I thought the same thing. That would be the only reason why Seth Rollins was still on the stage. That would be the only reason to still be on the stage is for there to be a tag team match at some point. The question will be, where is that match going? You said Elimination Chamber. Do you want The Rock working Elimination Chamber? Do you want to watch Roman work Elimination Chamber? Why run the risk of either one of them getting hurt before WrestleMania? You know. But the only reason Seth Rollins will still be on that stage is if he was going to be some kind in this involved with this somehow, and he's going to be the guy that's going to have Cody's back. One of the guys that's going to have Cody's back. That's possible. But they also could, use Jey Uso. That'd be interesting too. Australia paid to see The Rock. Oh yeah, I guess you could. Who's going to carry the weight of that match? Got to make it a 6-man tag then, because Rock doesn't want to wrestle and get hurt. Roman doesn't want to wrestle and get hurt. So you got to throw either Solo or Jimmy in there. So you got to make it a 6-man tag. Uh, that way Roman doesn't get hurt. He doesn't have to do anything. The Rock doesn't have to get hurt. He doesn't have to do anything. They can lose, and neither Rock nor Roman takes the pin. So what you could do is you could make Jimmy Uso, Rock, Roman Reigns versus Cody, Seth, Jey Uso. How about that? Um, and that could be, and Jimmy could be your bump guy, and he could be the guy that takes the pin. And maybe even have Jey beat him, and have Jey beat Jimmy in that match, and that leads to their match at WrestleMania. And you could have Bloodline Mania. I still want Rock and Roman though, dog. I do. I don't like the idea of that being teased and we not getting it. Like, why show me something I can't have? I like the idea that they're doing twists and turns in the story and everything, and they're doing logical twists and turns. But I want Rock and Roman. I don't. Cody is fine though. Cody is fine, and yes, the storyline is better. But it's WrestleMania, bro. I don't know what to tell you. We got to have a WrestleMania match here. Could Rock bring in Jacob Fatu? Oh yeah, I forgot Seth is injured. He can't even work. Shit. Uh, damn. That then blew that whole idea up. I forgot Seth was hurt. Could The Rock bring in Jacob Fatu? I guess he could. But would you bring him in now? I think you wait till all this stuff clears up first, and then you figure it out. Oh my god, I would hate for it to be a triple threat match. Oh my god, I would hate it so much. I would hate it so much. Don't ruin The Rock and Roman the first time they ever have a match. It's a triple threat match. That's terrible. You know? That's terrible. And then if The Rock is gonna take the pin, or who's taking the pin in that match? Cody is not gonna take the pin, he's gotta win. So that means he's gotta pin The Rock or he's gotta pin Roman. Mm-mm. If he's gonna win the title, he's gotta beat Roman. Don't do triple threat match. If anything, Maybe you can talk Roman into wrestling back to back nights. Maybe that's what you could. I know everybody. I hate that idea. I truly hate that idea. But I'm thinking that's what they're gonna have to do. I think they're gonna have to have Rock, Russell, Roman, maybe night one, Cody, Rock. I mean Cody, Roman, night two, or maybe even reverse it. Have Cody win the title on night one, and then Roman beats the Rock on night two. But I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like the triple threat idea. I hate it. I hate it so much. It's so awful. It's so awful. Now when it came to the Danielson situation, they gave away Batista and Randy Orton already. Like that match was already given away. So they basically teased us with either the Evolution triple threat match, which would have been fine, or Danielson finishing the story, which everybody preferred. Everybody preferred Danielson finishing the story to the Evolution triple threat match idea. Here, I think there's enough people who are excited about Cody that they can pivot. I just don't like the idea though. That's terrible. All right, we spent we spent too long on this thing, but SmackDown is tomorrow, so we're gonna get to watch this thing unfold a little bit more tomorrow. I gotta say though, that press conference was off the chain. It was great. It was truly great. They did some work there. The family tree and all that. That was great. Okay, let's get into our top story. Scott Demore was fired from TNA. He was fired by Anthem. He was the president of TNA. Then he got fired. He got fired on February the 7th, if I remember correctly, which was Wednesday. Wednesday, February 7th, in the middle of the day, out of nowhere, Scott Demore was shit canned um, by Anthem. This led to tons of stories coming out, people asking questions. Now, I'm not going to read any articles. I'm trying to move away from reading articles. Guys, let me know if you like reading articles. I'm starting to take notes and just do summaries of articles. And that's pretty much how I'm going to do things from now on. At least I'm going to try to. It also gives me an idea to read these documents first. So there's been a lot of questions about why Scott Demore was fired. So the Wrestling Observer, PW Insider, and Nick Houseman all have different perspectives. And we're going to go through all of these perspectives here because all of them have probably some element of honesty and truth to it, while none of them have really the idea behind it. Now, what Anthem said upon the firing of Scott Demore is that they're trying to integrate TNA further into Anthem. And this Anthony Chacon guy is going to be the new president, and he has no real wrestling experience. You look at his resume; he has no wrestling experience, none whatsoever. He used to, I think, put together a network TV network, but all roads seem to be that Anthem is going to envelop TNA further into the company for better synergy, et cetera, et cetera. And they thanked Scott Demore for all of his efforts in relaunching TNA and all this, but they're going in a different direction. That's kind of what they said. So now we get the more dramatic response. See, that was more of the nuts and bolts. We get a more dramatic response when it comes to Dave Meltzer. Dave Meltzer claimed that Scott Demore wanted a higher budget for TNA which led off to a standoff with Anthem because Anthem did not want to agree to increase the budget for the product. And this led to a standoff between the CEO of Anthem and Scott Demore. And this is, of course, what led to Scott Demore being released. Uh, do I believe this? I think there might be an element of truth to that. One of the reasons that's been what's been going on with TNA is they have been behaving very, very poor. In terms of not being able to pay the talent more to get into the free agent pool, spend more money. At the same time, though, if you look at Anthem, you're throwing them on Access TV, which is a network that you own. The show hardly makes any money. How do you justify increasing the budget? How do you justify running bigger buildings? How do you justify any of this stuff when the sponsorship revenue is not up to par, when the pay-per-view buys and things like that are not up to par? How do you justify, from a business perspective, purely business, increasing the budget? How do you justify that? I can't see one good reason to do so. I can't see one good reason why you would do that. So PW Insider says that Scott D'Amore tried to buy TNA. Anthem refused to sell it. And that they compared him to Eric Bischoff when WCW was going down the drain. And that Scott kind of saw some issues that was, reoccurring issues in TNA and thought that buying the company from Anthem was a way of kind of saving the company. You know, and that there were some issues between Scott and Anthem CEO. But they said these issues were basically Scott trying to buy the company. And do I believe this? Well, where is Scott D'Amore? Where is he going to get the money? Where is he going to get the money to buy TNA? He's been an employee for 20 years. Where is he going to get the money to buy this product? Why wouldn't Anthem sell it? Is my question. Again, I don't think it makes a ton of money. Access TV, what is it worth? What is it worth if it's not on Access TV? I don't know. I'm not sure if I believe this or not. Of course, PW Insider says that it wasn't a shock to Scott that he was going to be released, and that some people believe that Scott D'Amore's firing, especially with it being so sudden, it was because there was some sort of scandal, and they said that that's not true. And this led to, and this was Mike Johnson at a PW Insider. This led to Nick Hausman going on a almost 2-hour rant on Mike Johnson, calling him a piece of shit, saying fuck Mike Johnson. Just all this stuff seemingly came out of nowhere, if we're being honest. He is now extremely angry and cursing at Mike Johnson on Twitter. And the reason being is because Nick Hausman has called Scott D'Amore a piece of shit. It's called Don Callis a piece of shit. And says that both of them were involved with sexually harassing talent and all these sorts of things. Now, we're just gonna have to go back in the memory lane. All right. So 2019, Wrestling News World announced that there was an investigation inside of Anthem because there was a top management official that was being investigated over sexually harassing talent. NDAs were reportedly involved, and these NDAs were basically used as leverage over the talent. That since in the talent's contract was an ability for the company to extend their contract, that the only way that these people would release the talent from their contract and not extend them is if they signed an NDA. And reportedly, the NDA was signed and the talent was released. Now, Anthem released a statement claiming that they did investigate these claims, that they hired an external human resources department and an independent counsel to look into this. And they had an inquiry, which includes a consultation to the complainant, and that the allegations were were proven to be completely without merit. And they claimed also that the harassment had reportedly occurred after the talent had already been released. Now, in 2019, 2020, Nick Hausman was working for Wrestling Inc. And he posted a story that was around the speaking out in situation. With his referee, they called him Kid Ref. His name is Chris Levin. Chris Levin claimed that he was fired from Impact because he was asked to participate in this investigation. And this investigation was about abuse within Impact. He claimed that Moose and Larry Dallas had a problem with him and were constantly condemning him. Apparently, this involved Jake Christ, Michael Elgin, and Joey Ryan. All right. And later on, it came out that Don Callis was one of these people, and it was supposedly Don Callis sexually harassing Scarlett, which is why Scarlett and Karrion Kross, or Kevin Cross, had refused to ever go back to Impact. But at this point, Chris Levin did not say their names. So he was asked to be a witness and says that since he was a referee and he was tired of all the bullying going on in the organization, he wanted to get out so many of these predators. He told the truth to this external investigator or whatever. Then he says that the claimed the third party, the neutral third party, was really a friend of an Anthem boss, the Anthem CEO. This woman's name was Michelle Hall. She was hired to be the third party investigator, but apparently she worked for the Anthem CEO in 2004. This was something that apparently David Bixenspan dug up. And that's an interesting little twist that maybe the investigation was a sham. And when Chris Levin started to complain about the investigations and started telling how horrible everybody is, they released him. They fired him from being a referee. And then he claims that Impact ghosted him. Now, when it comes to a bunch of other issues that he says he knew about, he was asked about these things, and he gave the old platitude that it's not his story to tell. So he's all about telling stories. It's just not his story to tell. And at the time, he says that Moose was one of the people he had a really big problem with, and Larry Dallas was one of the people who had a big problem with him. This, of course, led to all of the people. I think David, Chris, I think that was got fired, and Joey Ryan, life got destroyed, and Michael Elgin's life got destroyed. All of this speaking out stuff. But that was not related to what Don Callis was reportedly doing to Scarlett. Now, it never came out what the people were. Nobody ever says Anthem is looking into the inappropriate relationship between Don Callis and Scarlett. Nobody ever said that. They were just talking about Anthem officials or top management officials, of which at the time Don Callis was one, being inappropriate with a talent. And a lot of people put two and two together because Scarlett left in a huff after being, brought in with all the fanfare of the world. She left the company pretty abruptly and in a huff, and then so did her boyfriend at the time. I don't know if they was married at the time. So, and then Don Callis left shortly thereafter. Shortly after the investigation concluded, Scarlett left. Her and Karrion Kross went to NXT. They went to MLW first. Then they had going to NXT. And Don Callis ended up on AEW before leaving his position at Impact on a more permanent basis. Now, this left Impact in the hands of Scott D'Amore. So Nick Hausman is saying that Scott D'Amore is involved with this cover up, this thing that's been going on in Impact. That's why he's saying that Scott D'Amore is a piece of shit, and that there has to be some paperwork or this is some kind of reckoning because this came out of nowhere. Basically, he's been a conspiracy theorist. And everybody is just talking about how much they love Scott, except Nick Houseman, who is just yelling into the wind pretty much that this guy is some kind of abuser with literally no evidence saying that he is. There's literally none. I read the Chris Levin thing. He never even mentioned the name of Scott Demore. That doesn't mean that Scott Demore wasn't involved. That doesn't mean that Scott Demore probably didn't know something, but he wasn't, nothing was pinned on him, you know? It's too often that people are guilty by association. So apparently he worked with Don Callis, therefore he was involved with the same stuff Don Callis was involved with. That, who said that? Why would that be true? Um, Now he is having sex with a talent now, but he was pretty open about that. In terms of their relationship, I think existed before Giselle Shaw was a talent on the roster. It was not some kind of secret NDA involved thing. They post on Twitter about each other, and I think Facebook and all this kind of stuff. And most people know about it and don't seem to care. So it's not like, the Vince McMahon, Janelle Grant situation where it's like a secret girlfriend. Everybody knows that Scott Demore is dating a talent. Everybody knew that. Um, and I don't think that would be a reason to fire him because the talent is dating Scott Demore for ages. Like this has been going on for years. As long as I check, I think they've been together for 4 years or something like that. So it's not like new. It's not new. But Nick Hausman was very angry at Mike Johnson for saying that Nick Hausman's conspiracy theories were not true, even though he didn't even say that. He just says that due to the suddenness of it, people assumed that it involved some kind of scandal, but that's not true. And that's when he just started cussing out Mike Johnson and saying that he'd call him a piece of shit to his face and all this kind of weird stuff, just really, really weird stuff. So Scott Demore got fired. After that, we started seeing from House of Wrestling when he calmed down that TNA was actually open to releasing some talent that was loyal to Scott Demore because now backstage morale in TNA is in the toilet. Scott Demore is seen as the guy who resurrected TNA, the guy who, for the past, especially 4 years, has been doing all the work and trying to build up the brand, hiring the talent, booking the shows, doing everything. He was the face of the brand. He was, the guy. And the talent trusted him. Talent liked him. But I realized, and I think I'm gonna save my personal opinion for later, but that's really what was going on. So then it turns out that they're not willing to give everybody who wants a release because they're now starting to say, well, certain talent are too important to the roster. We can't release them. So there's guys who like Moose. Moose came out and says that he re-signed to TNA because of Scott Demore, and he even left Twitter out of being, disgust, I guess you could say, that Scott Demore was fired, and he was distraught and he was pretty upset about it. Jordan Grace was pretty upset about it too. So a lot of talent have been pretty upset about Scott Demore. Now, Jordan Grace was mentioned specifically as somebody that they would not release from her contract if she wanted to walk due to the firing of Scott Demore, mainly because she is now, sort of a commodity due to the WWE Royal Rumble thing. PW Insider says that there was talent who were told that Scott Demore was stepping down. So the same Zoom call in which they found out that Scott Demore was leaving, they were told that he was stepping down, and then later on they were told that, oh yeah, he's got fired. And a lot of these talents have personal connections to Scott. And now I'm going to throw in some of my personal opinions and say that's been the problem with my reading and watching of TNA. Too many of those talents are personal friends of Scott Demore. Whether they're students in his school, like Gail Kim, like Josh Alexander, Like, people he personally recruited, like Mike Bailey, people that he worked with for a long time, like Eric Young, Kazarian, Eddie Edwards. He had such deep roots in the roster that I think it was rotting the show. And I've always, every time, I mean, this is not something that I'm just saying right now. You can go back and listen to any of my TNA Impact reviews. Every single time I complain about the booking, I complain about the roster. Every single time. And it's because Scott D'Amore was booking his friends. He was booking his friends. He had Josh Alexander pretty much beating everybody because Josh Alexander was one of his students. The nepotism is fine if the guy is talented, but when the guy is mid as hell, that's not making people want to watch the show. You know, so I'm glad Scott D'Amore got fired. I am ecstatic that he got fired. I'm saying, my goodness, finally, they're going to have an opportunity to do something different here. You know, they needed a restart. You know, you're going to jump TNA, and some people have said this is the bad timing due to the rebooting of TNA. No, 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 no. It's the perfect time. They should have fired Scott D'Amore weeks ago, before TNA came back. There was like 3 months where they didn't do anything. There was no shows. They weren't doing any tapings or nothing. They just 3 months of reruns. During all that time, that's when they should have fired Scott D'Amore, replaced him, and then for 3 months, that guy, Anthony Chacon or whatever, has an opportunity to get his pieces in place, get his staff in place, and do what he wants to do. Because now you got to do it on the fly. You pissed off a lot of talent. Who knows how many ancillary characters are going to be upset, like the Gail Kims and all those kinds of people who are going to be kind of pissy now that this guy is gone, and you might have to replace all of them. This is it's similar to what happened with Vince. You know, he's got a team in place. You got to replace his team slowly but surely. This Anthony Chacon is going to have to replace every single person who was loyal and to Scott D'Amore. All of them got to go for the most part. So that means you may have talent like Rosemary leave, and that's going to be an interesting time. It's like, this is something that TNA needed. This is something the brand needed. Scott D'Amore. People think that this safe Canadian wrestling was the best way to go. I don't think so. I think it's been proven when you look at the box office, the small shows. I mean, AEW had to fall off a cliff to get down to where Impact is in terms of attendance. They fell off a cliff to get there. TNA's television ratings are in the toilet. Now, that's not their fault because they can't get off of Access TV and onto a service that is in front of people. That's been a hard bargain. Is to get in front of people. That's been tough. That's hard for them to do on Access TV. So it's not his fault that ratings are in the toilet. But the ratings are in the toilet. The issue here, it just seems to be that there was such goodwill around Scott D'Amore, and he was seen as being the guy who was putting forth so much effort. And this is where I kind of lean into my libertarianism, where it's like, yeah, you worked hard, but you worked hard at virtually nothing. You worked very, very hard to book TNA and to try to get everything back to the old school TNA, but the ratings suck. The talent sucks. Nobody's really talking about, the brand regularly outside of they're going to bring somebody in. Somebody's going to lower themselves to go to TNA. Like, that's kind of how everybody takes it. Everybody looks at it like, these guys are lowering themselves. Nobody looks at it like they're taking the next step of their careers, because a lot of the talent that they've had, a lot of those people are either also rans or people who haven't really gotten started yet. Guys who are in their early 20s and maybe mid-20s, and people who are in their fucking 40s. Like, there's not really people in their prime hanging out in TNA, trying to be the top guy and carry the company. There's not that many people. That Everybody's either somewhere in their early getting their run started, waiting for AEW or WWE to come and get them, like Chris Bay and Ace Austin and the Rascals and all of them, or they're washouts. Dolph Ziggler, Kaz, Eddie Edwards, Eric Young, Moose, guys that can't go anywhere else. So they need to get, but they need to change that roster, and this to me is a good opportunity for them to do so. It's a good opportunity to just blow it all up. It's going to be ugly. It's going to hurt some people. But for somebody like me, I'm looking at it like it's an opportunity for them to do more. It's an opportunity for them to go to the next level. Scott D'Amore's impact plateaued a long time ago. It plateaued a long time ago. And enough's enough. It's been mediocre as hell for years now. Let's see if the Chacon guy fucks it up. I mean, how much worse could he get? Like, is the Yeti going to be the world champion or something? Like, how much worse can it get? I don't know. So I'm looking at it like there's really nothing to lose when it comes to TNA. They promised some new ideas and some new announcements and stuff like that. I'm excited for that kind of thing. Somebody different is in control. I don't like that he's not a wrestling guy, but somebody different is in control of this company, and that's good. That's a good thing. Um, Scott D'Amore would be perfect as Court Bauer's. Why would he want to work for Court Bauer? Like, if you're a Scott D'Amore, you want to go work in AEW or WWE. Why the fuck would you want to go work with Court Bauer? Or go work, better yet, go work for Billy Corgan in the NWA. How about that? Why go work for Court Bauer? Like, how is that going to benefit him? But he should see if WWE is interested, see if AEW is interested. Um, I'm pretty sure there's goodwill to be had. He's got probably a lot of good references in WWE with him working with guys like Abyss there. And I know he's got some friends in AEW as well. He won't be unemployed for long. And it won't be for long that he's going to do an interview or something talking about what happened. And that's when we'll probably get more information about um, why he ended up getting into it. Um, so that's an interesting thing. Like, I don't. If I was him, I wouldn't go work for like MLW. What's the point? Like, really, what is the point of going to work for like a MLW? Nah, you better off going to work for NWA. You know, uh, we need more guys like this who aren't wrestling fans running wrestling companies. I really miss the control your narrative logically approach. Um, Now if he got money to buy TNA, he got money to start his own promotion. If he got money to buy TNA, he got money to buy another wrestling promotion that might be out there floating around who, they already got maybe their foot in the door and maybe they just need a little bit more love and attention. But I wouldn't go work for Court Bauer. That would be a waste of everybody's time. You better off going to work for Corgan. I'm not even gonna hold you up. Corgan needs the help too. Corgan needs that guy. He needs help. That brother is drowning. All right. At the very least, um, Scott D'Amore can assist Billy Corgan and help him a lot. Other than that, I don't see that much. I don't see much. You're gonna get stuffed in an office in WWE somewhere, and what's the there's we talked about the Mania press conference, so we talked about that earlier. We talked about it much earlier, at the very beginning, actually. I haven't seen the NWA on the CW app yet. I was trying to find a bootleg stream of it. I couldn't, so I guess I will Is the app free? Is it free to watch? Because if it is, I'll probably download it now. But there's a lot of people um, who are upset about Scott Demore leaving. A lot of the talent. There might be some kind of mutiny against this Chacon guy. They're probably better off just releasing talent and letting them go, and then maybe shuttering TNA for like 2 or 3 months, reshuffling the roster and coming back fresh. Why? First, like I said, you're gonna have to replace everybody. That means you're probably gonna have to get rid of Gail Kim. You probably who is running the women's division. Got to replace her. You're probably gonna have to replace some of the other people, especially some of the really top talent that are loyal to Scott. Some of the people that he put in position, even that are kind of recent, like Eric Young and all those. Like some of those guys got to go, man. And I've been a supporter of those guys getting the hell out of there. it's I think it's long overdue. TNA could not grow anymore under Scott Demore. There was just nothing more he could do. I would have preferred they replaced him with another wrestling guy though. So uh D-Max says it's the first new app was Tuesday. It's on a free app. Okay. People saying Scott Demore saved TNA and got them out of a hole are hilarious. They are still in the hole. They just got a name change for nostalgia pop. I won't say they're in the hole. They're slightly above the hole. I think things have improved a little bit since Scott took over. Um, it was it was really bad in like 2017, 2018. It was the shits. All right, it was really terrible. 2020 was pretty bad. 2020 again, the product had been stale for a long time, but stale was better than what it was. But that's why I say I'm excited for the future. I'm excited to see what this guy is going to do that is different in wrestling. You know, um, if you watched Marky D123, one of the things he talked about was TNA not having an identity, um, because everybody's identity has been we're not WWE. Somebody's got to actually create something that is different with TNA that you don't get from AEW or WWE. Like NWA was for the nostalgia, the older fan. Everybody liked that about it when it first started rather. When Into the Fire and all that kind of stuff, everybody was like, "This is pro wrestling for dudes in their late 30s." All right, that's what this is. This is pro wrestling for guys who grew up with a television where you had to click the dial. That's what this was. Um, but now you have these promotions. There's so many of them, you know, and they all have their own individual identities. Like GCW is for the guys who liked XPW, and GCW is for guys who like ECW. And if you are a big fan of WCW, well, you got AEW, right? And WWE has just been WWE. But even they have gone through this radical change now that Vince is gone. And by the end of the year, pretty much all of Vince's cohorts, from Michael Hayes and Bruce Pritchard to who knows how many other people, are going to be gone. It's going to be a completely different product by January of next year. Why wouldn't Impact TNA change too? You know, you need to have something different. And I want to see what this guy is going to bring to the table that is different. That's what I want to see. I'm sorry if people are disappointed and that they loved Scott or they thought Scott was a good guy doing the right thing, but I think that the product was boring. Ultimately, I'm a viewer. And I'm looking at it from everybody's perspective. From if you're a talent, I get it. You're a Moose, you're a Jordan Grace, you're Josh Alexander, I get it. Scott Demore is not just your boss, he was your friend. And now he doesn't work there anymore. He is the one who gave you an opportunity. I get it. But I'm also a person who follows the business. The business is in the fucking toilet. Business is not good. Well, they just had their biggest grossing gate in a long time. Yeah, but did they spend more money than they made? I mean, they brought in Will Ospreay and Okada, and did they did they lose money on those endeavors? You know, how much did he really spend on Dolph Ziggler? You know, we don't know. Those things are not made public. But we looking at the TV ratings and we're trying to find the sponsorships and we're trying to figure out where are they getting money from? Like where do you guys get money from? Are you selling dope? 'Cause how else do you keep the lights on in TNA? Where does the money come from? And I want to be able to see where the money comes from in TNA, like I do. I don't want to seem like these guys are living off an inheritance or something like that. And that's kind of what it's been. But that's what happens when you're owned by another company. And WWE is going to become like that eventually. You know, they're going to get tired of spending so much money on The Rock and Steve Austin and not being able to get that money back. And I'm just telling you guys right now, it may take 15 years, it may take 20, it may take 5. But WWE is going to get to that point too, where Endeavor is not going to want to spend the money on guys like The Rock or guys like Undertaker or Steve Austin or whatever. And we're all going to be sitting here doing the exact same things, complaining about the exact same people, about Endeavor owning the purse strings and not wanting to spend the cash and not wanting to, invest in the product more. It was the same thing with Ring of Honor. They couldn't grow because the ownership didn't want to put any money into it. That's why I was so big on Vince either just giving it to the kids or dying with it in his hands. I was not a fan of him selling it because when somebody else is in control of the purse strings, they can starve the promotion to death. And we see wrestling promotions that happen to them all the time, literally all the fucking time. You know, the parent company just decides we're not putting any more money into it, and how can you how can you grow when the parent company doesn't want to invest? So I mean, it is what it is. But Scott Demore, he peaked, and it's over. I'm glad it's over. I don't know how long it'll take before we start seeing visible change. Maybe about 2 months, probably. Um, but the fallout hasn't even begun yet. Again, there's talent who's probably trying to get out of their contract. They're going to have to work on that, on the talent that are trying to get out of the contracts and um, replacing some of the executives and all that stuff. All that stuff's got to happen. So who knows? It's going to be a while. It's going to be a few weeks. I'm guessing it probably won't be up and running normally again until May or something. Because I'm pretty sure they're going to stay on the taped schedule, and they're going to need to get some shows under their belts. Um, I would personally would just release everybody who wants to be released. That's my view. If you were in love with Scott and you don't want to work without Scott, you want to boycott, I'm not gonna give you the opportunity to mutiny against me. I'm just gonna say, well, if you want to leave, I'll just terminate your contract and we'll just spend that money with other people. Bring in other people. There's tons of wrestling talent out there who are looking for an opportunity. That's the same thing I was saying when it comes to, TNA before. Like, just look at the wrestling landscape. WWE keeps finding people. AEW keeps finding guys. You know, even if it means just going over to Europe or whatever, there's people out there who you could bring in to freshen up the product, to do something different, to create a new identity. You just got to spend the cash, and you could free up some money very easily by letting the people who want to go. You doesn't Jordan Grace sell lewd pics in her underwear? Maybe she funds it with her nasty panties. I don't think she does that anymore. Um, I think as soon as she became buff, she stopped doing that stuff. She was doing it when she was kind of young and piggish. She was doing it. That's kind of weird though. But I guess she decided to put that energy somewhere else. Yeah, I mean, everybody needs to have their own identity, and I'm not so sure what TNA's identity is at this point. Um, I hate that it had to be Scott. He seemed like a nice guy, and look, until Nick Hausman brings some kind of evidence that he did something to somebody, I don't take what he says at face value at all. But it's great for business to get rid of Scott Demore. Not because he's a bad person. I don't believe that you should have a job forever just because you're a good person. You have to actually do a good job, you know. But there's also something to be said about morale, in terms of talent. And maybe you should have just let him slowly but surely phase himself out there where you could actually handle this thing in a more professional way. I would have said, okay, Scott, we're going in a different direction. We're going to give you 90 days. And we would have told the talent, Scott's going to be out of here in 90 days. That's going to give us all some time to think. People who want to leave with Scott, we will terminate your contract. We will start bringing in new talent. We're going to bring in new executives and all this kind of stuff. And there will be some overlap, but uh, at the end of the day, there would be more respect. I think if you'd have told everybody that we're going to slowly but surely start phasing Scott out, versus the abrupt, he's fired, this guy's in, and the guy is very excited for the job, and everybody else is very confused. And they're like, "Well, we thought Scott was doing a great job. We thought Scott was doing it was a great guy." And Anthem's like, "Nope, he is fantastic. He's tremendous. We just want to. He was so good, we fired him." Like that's the Vince Russo. You're so good at your job, we don't want you here anymore. I never heard that before in my life. Um, you want to know what's so interesting about this Nick Hausman thing? He's been going around posting this guy Chris Levin. This Chris Levin guy, at around the same time that he was talking about how people in Impact were bullies and abusers, he got called a bully and abuser at the same time. the the irony, right? So Nick Hausman is trying to defend the guy and say that he blew the whistle on the Impact story, but he's a piece of shit too. Hmm. And see what you do, you know, and see what you did. But apparently, this guy, the girl who said that he was an abuser, it was like, oh, he gaslighted me. I'm like, oh fuck, come on, I don't care about this. Every bitter ex girlfriend on planet Earth claims that she was gaslighted and manipulated. It's like, come on, what the hell does that even mean? You're an adult. You manipulated me. You gaslighted me. Anybody on planet Earth can say they've been gaslighted because it doesn't mean anything. All of a sudden, being a bad boyfriend or being a flawed person means you're an abuser. But it was hilarious watching him argue with people like Larry Dallas on Twitter because everybody's now threatening to expose Nick Hausman. I'm like, look, it's not that big a deal. He went full ringside news for about an hour though, and I thought that was pretty humorous because that guy from ringside news, he gets pretty upset and he starts going after people, calling them pieces of shit and trying to expose them and all that kind of stuff. Nick Hausman did it too. He just he couldn't hold himself in. He couldn't hold himself together. He's a moron. But until we know exactly why Scott Demore was abruptly fired, I think the most reasonable response is that he probably was pushing for more than what Anthem wanted. You know, he probably was pushing to spend more money than they wanted to. Maybe he spent more money than they wanted him to. Maybe the business just wasn't there. But I want to hear what his side of the story is. I'm pretty sure after he puts out a side of the story, Anthem will put out one too. But it was a it was an interesting day. I think it was like the day or two after the Rosie Ogawa thing, right? You know, so phew, over the last 2 years, the only wrestling promotion that's still there is Tony Khan. The only one that's still there is well, Conan. Conan's still there, but like wrestling promoter in like the United States that's like major is Tony Khan. And who knows how long before Tony Khan gets wrapped up in something nonsensical. He seems to be very boring and mediocre, so maybe he's just sit in his room and jot down how many time limit draws he's gonna have, and everybody will like that and not pay him any attention. Maybe he'll end up being like the Sam Rothstein of pro wrestling. He's just man his own business. He goes on TV occasionally to make these insane claims, but overall, he's not out here wheeling and dealing and you know trying to do too much. I think that the idea of him wanting to buy the company came when he pretty much figured he was going to get fired. And my issue is where was he going to get the money from? Uh, and my further, why wouldn't Anthem just sell it? You know, but of course, if they were going to sell it, they probably would have sold it to WWE because that's where they would get most of the money from. But I don't think he was fired for trying to buy the company. I'm thinking that he pretty much saw the writing on the wall and thought, you know what, maybe I'll try to buy this thing because they're going to kill it. And I can, from his perspective, I can see that maybe that's his view of it. That this Anthony Chacon is not going to save TNA; he's going to kill it. You know, or these guys don't know what they're talking about. They're going to, fuck the business even worse than I have, which is entirely possible. In which case, he tried to buy it. I'm very interested in that. I'm very interested in that. I'm also very interested in why Anthem wouldn't sell it, even though I cannot see for the life of me how they make money. I just don't see how they make money. But I know it's like the number one show on Access, but then again, how hard can that be? Because Access has nothing else on it. There's nothing else on it, you know. So I don't know. Uh, yeah, they definitely needed new management, and they needed it really bad. God, they needed new management bad. It's beyond time for a new age. All right, y'all. Appreciate y'all stopping by, man. I'll talk to you guys later until we find out some more about Scott. SmackDown is tomorrow. I'm pretty sure they're going to build off the Rock's, I guess, heel turn from Smack and Cody. So I'm going to be very excited for SmackDown. But I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out. Be blessed.